Hi, everybody. John Haldi here, and I'm super excited to have David Cooper with me. David, welcome.
Thank you.
For those of you who don't know David, David has been in the line haul space for a long time. He and his brother Jonathan are very successful line haul operators. David owns Lehigh Expeditors, and he's also a principal in MyFXGBizConsultants, which has been doing some really interesting things. And I've wanted to get you onto a conversation for some time about MyFXGBizConsultants. But you've avoided that, which we'll talk about later. But I thank you for coming to talk about it today.
Yeah, not a problem. It's something that we've been doing for quite a while. Not something we've really put out there for a lot of reasons. But one thing is we just wanted to make sure we did things right. It was important to us that we weren't doing anything that would lead someone to a bad investment or bad taste in their mouth for this FedEx thing, because it's created quite the life for us, and we wanted to help other people do the same thing. And we were kind of crafting our venture, crafting the way we do things for quite some time before we kind of took it out to the public to make it an offering for all.
So you mentioned a few things there, but the one that I zero in on is something that we're passionate about here, which is making sure that line haul operators are successful with their business. That you're going to work your butt off in this space, but to do it and not make any money is just criminal, right? And I love what I've heard from your customers and from you about how it's not just helping them get the routes, it's making sure that they know everything they need to know, that they're stood up properly, they're going to be successful in the short, medium, and long term. I love that angle from you because, and this is a whole nother video, maybe we'll do something separately, but I don't think the brokerage business is focused like that.
I wouldn't know at this point. We've dealt with some on some transactions that we've done over the years, but haven't dove into that aspect of it as looking into.
Let's take that offline today. I want to talk about what you're doing because I love the model.
Yep.
So correct me if I'm wrong. In essence, you work with folks who want to get into the space initially.
Right.
And the value prop is you could go buy an existing business and pay a large amount for that and start with debt, right? Unless it's cash and less cash. Or you could take advantage of FedEx's Build a Ground Biz, and you will help them navigate that, evaluate it, and then do all the preparation to get them into the game at full throttle with trucks and drivers operating, right?
Correct. Kind of how we got into this is a few years ago. Really, I think most contractors get it all the time. They say that, hey, we're a contractor for FedEx Ground, and people say, you do what? Most people don't realize that FedEx has a large segment of their business until recently, when it's kind of gotten more public. But for a long time, people didn't know that FedEx trucks weren't owned by FedEx, and that a lot of them were owned by contractors. So we got off and, was asked that question. Then it started coming from people that had some means to them, and they were wondering, well, hey, what's it take to get into the space? Where's it go from there? Jonathan and I, we had a buddy that was close to our age that, he was looking to invest, looking to do it. And we helped him out. We got him some runs. A few years later, he's talking to a broker. He exited from the business or from being a contractor, and did very well for himself. And it was kind of our aha moment that, hey, we just set this guy up, and we didn't ask him for a penny. He offered along the ways to help us out here and there, but it kind of set up the lines for the business. And what we did with him, we did it as a friend, and we knew we had to treat him right because we were, he was putting some serious funds into this, and we didn't want him to fail. So we kind of took it slow, and it was a long 2-year process with him. And over the ways, we thought, okay, we got something here. Now we got to figure out how to make it doable, how to make it quicker, how to make it the right fit for contractors or for anybody wanting to get in this space, not just our buddy that lives right down the road that can call us at any time. Go ahead.
The thing that was intriguing and maybe timely wise, it's changed a bit, but the last 2-3 years for FedEx has been explosive growth in terms of their freight, right?
Right.
The statistic I heard was that they pulled 10 years of freight growth into a year and a half or something crazy like that. New routes, new terminals, contractors growing like crazy. In this space, if you're an existing contractor, you can grow organically, meaning you get more routes awarded to you as an existing contractor, right?
Correct.
Or you can grow inorganically by acquiring other people's routes.
Yes.
Pros and cons, we can talk about that in depth, but in terms of the inorganic growth, whether you're an existing contractor or a new contractor, the last 3 years has been kind of unprecedented with the amount of stuff that's been offered, because FedEx was just, they had to fill the routes, right?
Yeah.
It's come in some lately, right?
Absolutely.
With the pullback in freight growth right now, I'm willing to bet that there's not a whole lot being posted to build a ground biz. Is that fair?
I would say the numbers have come down. It's definitely kind of changed the way we have looked at things and structured our business and how we're looking to grow with some guys who are looking to invest in the space. Recent events have caused a lot of things, but they have left to where there are still runs available. There's still businesses available that are for sale if you can inorganically grow. With that growth, right, there are very successful businesses out there. There are also places out there to where maybe FedEx did put out 2 more runs, or maybe some, maybe the space has changed to where logistics services are not needed in that space, right? The growth isn't there, and there's too many tractors in that market. But hey, you can get your foot in the door by gobbling up a couple of runs for cheap. And so there's ways to become a contractor today that can be explored that weren't there 6 months ago, where some other ventures were there 6 months ago. It's constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. We just look for alternative avenues for becoming a contractor that don't require the big upfront purchase.
So I've always thought of acquisitions, when I hear people talking about buying a line haul operation, you're really buying 2 things. You're buying the routes, you're buying the equipment typically, right?
Correct.
Whereas what you're doing is you're not really buying the routes, you're getting them for free, although there's a fee paid to you for doing that, right?
The fee paid to us is not for getting the routes. The fee paid to us is setting up the company, getting them set in the right direction, making them to where they present themselves in a manner in which they can earn the runs. We don't get a fee. We don't have any connection with FedEx saying, hey, get these guys a run. There's nothing like that. It's just, we create companies, right? We know what it takes to be a successful contractor. So we can train someone to become a successful contractor. We can do that before they are a contractor, to where they can present their RFI for a growth opportunity, and it goes to the head of the stack. They look really, really good on paper. And then when they get their interview and they talk about it, they can back that up.
Because I talked to some folks in Dallas at the Linehaul Summit who were looking to get into the space. And I was kind of surprised at how unaware they were of what's involved. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to go right when you come into this space, especially organically.
Mm-hmm.
Besides having the money arranged and besides getting through the meetings, I mean, when FedEx gives you a go date, you've got to have equipment. You've got to have that equipment in the FedEx system with all the safety things. You've got to got drivers who are in the system. They've gotten through all the hoops. First Advantage, we know. I mean, and then you need to understand the nuances of running every day and how the point system works and what happens if you have a call off and all those things. And it's not their fault, because FedEx doesn't put out a manual that says, here's all the things you need to know, right? There's no being a FedEx line haul operator for dummies yellow book on Amazon you can buy, right?
Right.
Allowed to say Amazon on our meetings? I can't. So that's the gaps you're filling, right?
Correct. Yeah, we've learned how to be a good contractor, but we've done it by learning how not to be a good contractor, right? You typically learn from your mistakes a lot more. We've done some things right, we've done some things wrong, but we've learned and we've documented and we have kept up with the changes more than anything. because things are constantly changing with being a contractor. We look at it as we're not a contractor, we're not a trucking company. We are a contractor. We also, Jonathan and I, we've got some stuff running outside of FedEx. There's big differences with being a contractor and being a trucking company. To be a successful contractor, you have to follow the contract. There's a lot to learn in that contract. There's a lot of paperwork involved. There's a lot of setup that involved. We can walk you through that. We can help you with that. We've helped people with that. We've set people up on a right track to make them successful. And it's fun to do. It's really neat to see and neat to help people flourish. That, Jonathan and I don't have a trucking background. I've never had a CDL. Tell all of my drivers that. Every single guy that drives for me knows that I don't have a truck, or I don't have a CDL. I don't know what goes on in a truck. He doesn't know what goes on in my office, but we can make things work. We weren't trucking people until 5 years ago, but we dove into this space and we learned a whole lot. It made us the company that we are. It made us very successful in this space. And we think that by working with others now, that we can take what we learned in 5 years and teach somebody in 3 months. And if somebody can do that, it'll help not only the contractor, but it should help the entire network.
The folks that you've helped into this space, generally good results?
So far, I guess knock on wood, but I don't think there's too much luck to it. The guys who have worked with us have been quite successful. Like I said, one guy, he got in, he made a good run with it. He got his exit. We've had 2 other guys who have purchased to get in and kind of segmented off some of it. And we helped guide them through that to where maybe it wasn't a great deal to buy where they bought, but they were able to, carve out a piece of it and, make right with what they had and help them out that way. It really worked out well. But yes, the only way, right, this is the first time we've gone public with anything. We've been able to do this for the last couple of years, last 2 years, really. The only way we've had our business is by referrals coming in. So we've stayed busy with it. I think that speaks enough for itself with it.
You mentioned you had some clients, people you work with, who bought instead of got awarded. There's been a lot of news lately about some turmoil in the FedEx contractor market, more so in the P&D than the line haul space.
Correct.
It's my opinion, and I could be completely wrong. I'm open to your interpretation on this, but in my opinion, FedEx certainly has caused problems. They've caused pain in a lot of cases. But there's a lot of folks who got into this space by paying too much, and they have a debt service problem. Their balance sheet has way too much debt, and while they're making money, it's all going towards paying for a purchase, where I think in many cases in the last 2 years, a lot of folks overpaid. And when you've got to make fixed payments on debt and you hit a downturn, the market slows down a little bit or something, you could be in the red, even though operationally you're in the black. And I think that's causing a lot of pain as well. Am I wrong? I mean, it's okay if I'm wrong.
I've definitely seen that. I don't want to speak on the P&D space. I don't pretend to know that market. I've never played that game. I've never been.
Yeah, me neither. I don't know.
Right.
I've heard there's real problems from FedEx.
I think you can see enough on various Facebook sites to know that there's some definitely turmoil in the P&D space, probably more so in the line haul space. Line haul is profitable. It always has been profitable if done correctly. I think what you're getting at is definitely true. If people have more expense on their business, they are maybe they're essentially, it comes down to what I'm getting towards is people who buy. If people are buying where FedEx, I think, got into trouble is people were buying as people were coming in without buying. The people who bought can't pay what these people are able to pay to a driver. So then they can't hire and they're killed.
Certainly in the line haul side, there are routes that are better and worse than others.
Right.
And there are folks and there are markets where it's harder to hire drivers than others. You got to pay more.
Right.
And then there's situations where truck utilization and driver utilization can absolutely gobble up P&L, which I've seen. I was talking to someone earlier today about that. But I believe operationally, line haul is a very solid business.
Correct.
But I believe I've also heard of people getting into line haul and paying so much that they can't make it work.
Agreed.
And I'm a numbers guy, so I think in terms of NOI, net operating income, and then the amount you pay to the person who loans you the money is non-operating expense. So that's the bottom line.
Yep.
They're making money at NOI, and they're losing money overall, and they're going bankrupt. Some of them.
Right.
But overall, I think that the line haul space is in much better shape. And I think that people, if you're watching this, we're doing this in early November 2022, in case this thing's still out there for a while. It's still a very good space. I know people who've gotten into it recently and done very well in it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it can be a good space purchasing or growing organically with it, but it has to be done correctly. And with anything else, you have to be very, very careful of your debt, and you have to be very careful of how you're structured with your business. Line haul has been, always will be profitable. I've said for a long time that there are times of the times in logistics you look like a genius as a contractor, and there's times in logistics that you look like an idiot as a contractor. And it basically depends on what freight's doing outside of it, because FedEx is, as they like to say, steering a big ship. If you're getting in when you look good as a contractor, when it's a good time to be a contractor, people got in and the routes were transferring at pretty high rates, I would say, probably more than what they should support. You cut back on freight a little bit, everything slows down. All of a sudden the spares aren't running that we're fluffing some of these numbers. Things can get pretty ugly. Where we like to work with guys and kind of get in with people who are buying is making sure they know what they're buying, making sure that what they're buying can sustain the turns that we've seen in FedEx, to where, times are good and times are bad. And not only that, but kind of can withstand the driver pool. There's a lot of things that outside of our industry, but when other spaces go good, it gets really hard to hire in certain markets. People will always talk about the oil industry in Texas, right? It's easy to be a contractor in Texas when oil's down. When oil's booming, you can't hire a driver. There's different areas of the country where the same things work out. This business is always, like I said, you're not a trucking company, you're a contractor. Be good at hiring and have some good trucks, because that's what you're doing.
But let's walk through an example so that people kind of know what we're talking about from a debt situation. In today's market, people will argue with me, but if you could buy 7 dedicated routes, solo routes, with 7 trucks and a spare from somebody who's operating a good business, back of the envelope, I would guess, depending on the age of the trucks, probably $1 million, $1.2 million would be fair value for something like that, because you've probably got about 500,000 in trucks and 700,000 in routes in the acquisition. Am I way off there?
There are a lot of factors that lead into that. I think there's routes, a route, it's hard to compare. I don't think you're comparing apples to apples on any route. Certain routes are 600 plus miles, certain routes aren't. But yes, generally speaking, I think there'd be a lot of people in this space that would argue your numbers are low, or want to think your numbers are low. But if someone wants to be successful in their purchase, that probably is where they need to be.
Let's pretend, for the sake of this discussion, you could buy these quality routes for 100 grand a piece in the market.
Okay.
Whatever the quality is, they're trading for 100 grand. Okay. And the trucks in this case are worth about 80. Who knows how old they are? Okay. Or 100. So to buy this thing, you might be paying 1.2, 1.5, something like that. You're going to start the business with a going concern, but you just gave someone $1.2 to $1.5 million, right?
Correct.
Alternatively, if you could somehow go through the organic route. If Build a Ground Biz came and said, yeah, you're in Virginia, but we've got 7 routes that we're giving away in Dallas, make up a place, right? Or Savannah. And they award them to you. You got to get trucks. You could buy them if you can get them or lease them. But assuming you can get the equipment, you may have debt on the equipment. But now you're just paying for coaching to get up to speed. You didn't spend all that money. You're not out of pocket the 700 grand you would have paid for the routes elsewhere, right?
Right.
And if you choose to lease to start, you didn't need a whole lot of capital to get going, right? You didn't buy the routes. You didn't have to buy the trucks. You're leasing them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that was, that's what's kind of led to some issues in the contractor world. And I think that's what's hurt the people who have bought high, to get back to your previous question, right? If you can come in, and guys have come in into this space through growth opportunities, right? FedEx boomed. So if you're a player in the market, we'll pick on Dallas because we've been talking about it. And I don't know the Dallas market well. I know it well enough. But say you bought your team run in Dallas and you have $200,000 of debt service on that run, right? You've got to cover that at the end of the day. You bought it, the guy was paying 75 cents a drive or 75 cents a mile to the driver. All of a sudden, new company comes in. They don't have that $250,000 payment that they're covering. They're able to pay their drivers 80. It's a big problem for the guys who have the debt service. They can't compete with the guys. It creates the competitive advantage to the guys who came in with the growth opportunity with less debt.
Well, they're going to pay 80 because that's how you got to get drivers.
Right.
But now they're not making as much.
Absolutely.
And now
they're not making as much. They're not making as much. They're not making as much on the top end. But they don't have the debt on the bottom end to cover.
Right. So the person who has the fixed debt service because they maybe did a 5-year note back to the seller, they're not making as much on the top end. And now they got to dig into their own pocket to make the payment to the person they bought from.
Correct.
It breaks my heart to see that, because literally they're doing the right things. They're running a profitable business, but they're not making any money.
Yep. And the other thing we get into is, in these times where it's not just other contractors that you're competing with for your drivers or for your trucks or anything else, right? You're competing with everybody that's not a contractor. You get into Chicagoland and, there's companies up there paying $1 per mile, $1.15 per mile for team drivers, especially watch this peak. It'll go bananas up there. We just got a new truck quote for $187,000 at the same truck 13 months ago was $157,000. So my truck goes up 30 grand. My driver goes up 30 cents a mile in some markets. If you want to compete, it's tough to do when you have the debt on the business. There's a lot of unforeseens.
But I want to reiterate this because there's a lot of people getting very scared of the space. People buying trucks at $187,000 and people paying 20, 30 cents more a driver, they're still making money doing this business. FedEx is paying a little more, getting better fuel reimbursement. There's ways to make money at those prices.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know if you can make money at the $1.15 a mile in Chicago. That would be tough to compete with. But I think we can all agree that there's a lot of contractors out there that are paying 80 or north of 80 to a team driver and have them in a brand new truck, and they're doing well. Now,
for the folks who work with you, and I guess this would apply to anybody who's new to the business, you're educating them generally about the space before they make a commitment to do anything, right?
Most people talk to us. We like to get to know our clientele. We don't have a set fee structure. We don't have anything, set up that way. We like to talk to people, and we need to know what their needs are, because ultimately that's what we're doing for people. We're fulfilling, we're teaching them what they don't know. And so we need to know what they do know first. So we do a lot of get to know our clients before we ever work with people. And we don't, currently we haven't been working with a large number of clients. We've been busy running our own businesses and everything else. And it's always been kind of a side deal. Which kind of scares me with this video a little bit, that we will be getting inundated with a bunch of stuff, but it is what it is.
Nobody watches these things. Don't worry.
Yeah.
When you work with new folks, education was a big piece of what you get paid for, right?
Correct.
It covers a lot of stuff, and I bet you it's all born from my own experience. FedEx doesn't put out a manual of all these things you need to do. So just because I don't think, no offense, I don't think what y'all do very, very well in terms of your own trucking companies requires a PhD in nuclear physics. Right?
I would agree. It's we think we've taught or narrowed it down to where we can teach somebody how to do it in a 3 to 6 month time period.
I think it's like 25% smarts and 75% experience. And the issue becomes, first of all, are you smart enough? Most people are, but it can't hurt to socialize with other people, know it. But then how much of the experience that other people have paid full price for, with bruises and scars and P&L disasters, can you pull forward and get on the cheap by listening and learning from folks like you, right?
Correct.
So you coach them to make sure that they want to get into the business by explaining what it's going to really be like.
Correct.
You help them evaluate what they might be awarded or acquiring, right?
Correct.
You coach them through getting approved by FedEx, right?
Yes, sir.
At that point, great. But I mean, that's the orchestra, I would think, warming up before the real show, which is you just got awarded a business. Now you got to show up on a certain day, and the truck's got to be there, and the driver's got to be there, and you got to get them from A to B. And you better have all your freaking ducks in a row, or FedEx says full stop, you forgot to do this. There's no FCAM on that truck. You're not going anywhere.
Right. So we like to have all our ducks in a row, make sure it's, something that people are really wanting to do and really, really want into. Because I think a lot of people learn that there's a lot of tales out there of this business being a owned from afar and not being into it. And that can happen with some services, but to get one of these off the ground, to be a go from the infant, zero truck company up to successful and running itself, it takes some work. We like to think that we can walk people through that challenge, walk people through how to set up trucks, how to find trucks, how to even acquire a truck, because that can be difficult in today's world, but definitely once you got them, how to do it. But you nailed it on the head. Once it's a go, right? That's where things get serious with us. Once FedEx says, yep, you've been awarded the runs, you got 90 days to get your tractors turned on, we get real serious real quick. And that's where things start to happen. And it gets chaotic for a while, but we like to think that if you're awarded the runs and you go through our system, that you'll hit day one of your tractors being turned on and everything's smooth sailing.
Well, I talk to contractors all the time. Enjoy the days it's smooth sailing.
I think most days are smooth sailing if things are organized and if you know what your role is, right? You don't have to have a perfectly smooth day to be a good contractor every day, and things can sail smooth and through rough waters. But it's following your role, knowing your role, and knowing what to do. We do our side right, and FedEx does their side right, and everybody's happy.
Oh yeah, generally, but I'm just saying from an operational standpoint, things break, trucks go down, people call off, people get sick, etc. Like, it's all about juggling the things you can't control and reacting to them intelligently and keeping the freight moving, right?
Agreed.
So we've been talking for a while, and you've been very gracious to let me keep asking you questions like this. What have I forgotten to ask you that, if you think about somebody watching who's thinking about getting into this space, that they should know? What are some of the things that I've not touched on that you wanted to share?
Well, we've talked a lot about coming in from the space as kind of the way we've done it, where you can get 2 to 4 growth opportunities, or you're coming in on a small scale. And I think a lot of people are wanting to get into the space, and a lot of people are thinking they can get into the space and it be, they don't touch it. It's mailbox money or some sort. It doesn't happen often, but with a lot of stuff going on, I think it could be close in the marketplace. There's a lot of vendors out there, a lot of companies popping up that are offering a lot of services that I think could make some real changes for that for some contractors.
I think evolutionary wise, I think it's going to evolve in that direction. But I think the interim step, which I'm very excited about right now, is if you're a brand new contractor, you've got to wear a lot of hats on day one. You've got to be a safety expert, a compliance expert, a recruiting expert, an HR benefits manager. You've got to be a scheduling pro. You've got to be a dispatch whiz. You've got to be a culture building coach. You got to be a finance whiz. You got to do all these things if you're a one-man show, right? One woman show, whichever. There are now people offering at very attractive prices fractional expertise.
Correct.
You can find someone who will run safety for your 4 or 5 trucks. You can find someone who is a great recruiter who can find you your 6th driver. You don't have to hire someone who's an expert in this. And the beauty is, yes, it might be a little more than you would pay if you hired someone by the hour, but the amount of expertise and experience that you're getting so outweighs the incremental cost of you trying to learn all of that on day one. So that's the part that today I'm super excited about. And I think you're right. We may be a year or 2 away from someone buying in and literally saying, don't call me, just send me the checks.
Yeah. And I don't know if we can get to that point. Where I think we are is that you can be an owner and have your smooth sailing because you're paying people to take care of those problems for you. But you still have to know what you're doing. You still have to know, you still have to be your checks and balances. And that's where we really focus and get people to, is that, hey, we teach people to run the business how we run the business. And I don't take phone calls all day for my trucks, right? I've got a guy for that. We've got, we handle that stuff. And that's what I think it takes to be successful in this, because you can't be the guy that's answering phone calls 24 hours a day. You'll burn out, and then you won't be a good contractor. You'll be a disgruntled contractor.
I know many, many, many of those people. I try to talk to them for half an hour and their phone's blowing up and they own a company.
Right.
I also know people. I spoke to someone last week. He's now almost at 40 trucks. He's grown in 2 years from nothing to 40. He's planning to double that again in the next year or 2 if he can find the opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And he's working 10, 15 hours a week because he's put the right people in place. He's used the right technology. He's outsourced a lot of the expertise things. He's built a system where the whole thing works, and he doesn't have to do it all. And think about that. I mean, and he's very profitable. I mean, like 7 figures profitable free cash flow a year. And he's working 10 to 15 hours a week, but he's staying on top of the things he's put in place.
Right.
That's achievable.
And that's where we are trying to get people to. That's our focus, is to get people to where they can turn their business into that. Because that's what we've turned ours into. It took us 5 years of doing it the hard way. We think we can train people with that. That's where we hit the mark, we hit the nail on it.
That's where our passion is, and it's selfish, because on our software, when we tell them it's $30 a truck per month, we want them to laugh at how small that is compared to what they're doing, as opposed to frowning because they haven't got $30 to scrounge together.
Right.
And you know what? The two exist. We meet them both.
I do agree.
So David, if it's okay with you, can we put your contact info underneath your picture here on the video when we go to post-production, so that if anybody wants to contact you, they can?
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds good.
So we'll include that there, and we'll put it in the comments section when we post it to YouTube. I cannot thank you enough for sharing your time today. I hope that you'll consider coming back and talking about a few other things that I'd love to pick your brain on.
Oh, absolutely. It's always been a pleasure to work with you. Your company and your all's program has been instrumental into what we've done.
Well, still, you're very generous to share your expertise with the folks out there. So I wish you well, and until next time, have a great day.
Yep, you do the same. Thanks.